Hello, folks. Today is May 13th, 2023. I am looking. It says my microphone is on. It says that screen share record is on. And it says that we should be seeing that in which is titled The Bond, and the two shall become one on the screen here today. So, Lord God, I'm praying that this is coming through, that the microphone is working as it's supposed to be working, and that you will be leading this unto your own purposes and revelations as we come to honor you today in this as the bond here, Lord, is about the marriage and the covenant unto you now, Yeshua, our bridegroom, since you came and you plowed that path and you fulfilled your mission and you became the way, the doorway, and the marriage covenant unto the Father God again, restoring that relationship possibility to everybody who will take your hand in holy matrimony, spiritually speaking, sir, which is the most beautiful thing that I can reflect on right now at this moment. So, without further ado, God, we would like to bring you what you and I work on, you know very well, but we would like to bring you some honor in this recording today, upholding our marriage to you as you're upholding marriage to us consistently in our lives, making us the number one treasures in your heart, fulfilling all that you did for purposes because you wanted to make us number one in your life first and foremost, that there isn't anything or anyone more important than your people, your humans, your family in your life, in the way that you designed humans to be made after your image and likeness, which is to function in love, and charity and honoring and kindness and gentleness and all of your other attributes. You wanted to make a creation that would function like as you do and return that love, character, and conduct towards you freely of our own giving and of our own free will, because we desire to, because we love you, and because we honor you. You did not want robots, you wanted family. And in that, Lord, I'm praying that we bring you honor in this today. I'm praying that we bring you the respect that you deserve in creating us to make choices for ourselves, because that's what you do. You make choices for yourself and you free think, and you wanted us to have all of those abilities as well. In that, there are some that will not return to you. There are more that will not return to you than more than who will, but to those who will, it is the most incredible covenant marriage that one could yoke themselves to. If ever there were a yoking like unto with God, it is not to be compared with anything else. And there is, and it's called the new covenant with and through Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. It is what is known as salvation, and it is the bond between two where they become one. And without further ado, Lord, I pray that we honor you in this, but I also pray that you will help us to understand, what is this marriage? What is this salvation? What were we being saved from in general? Was really estrangement, wasn't it, sir? It was estrangement from you, because in the garden we were one and then we fell, which means we broke up. And you wanted to make that reconciliation way to come back together and to make up possible. And that is done. The salvation of an estranged relationship is done when we take your hand in marriage again. So I pray you'll help us to understand that today, Lord. The bond, and the two shall become one. Ephesians 5:31. H632, bond, definition, an obligation or vow of abstinence, binding. H631, bind and bound. Definition, to yoke or hitch up to fasten, to join, battle, gird, harness, hold or keep to, make ready, order or prepare, prisoner in bonds to, set in array, which means arranged in order. Numbers 30, verse 2. If a man vows a vow unto the Lord or swears an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. There is a point in this verse that is related to swearing and making a vow to do something. The point is follow through. We are a people who are not exactly like God holy in that we often break our promises we make, but God does not. He is attempting to show us just how incredibly important it is to understand that when we say we are going to do something, that we carry that vow out, because a vow or an oath is binding. Let's see what the definition of these words binding, swear, oath, and vow are according to the dictionary. Oath, a solemn promise, often invoking a divine witness regarding one's future action or behavior. A sworn declaration that one will tell the truth. Synonyms: pledge, affirmation, word of honor, bond, guarantee. Vow, a solemn promise to do a specific thing, a dedication to someone. Synonyms: pledge, bond, covenant, commitment, word of honor. Swear, make a solemn statement or promise undertaking to do something or affirmation that something is the case. Root definition: to answer. Synonyms: undertake, assert, declare, vow, proclaim, pronounce, profess, guarantee, maintain, invoke. Binding, a strong covering, holding things together, fastening together tightly, obligation that cannot be broken. Cohere into a single mass. United, impose a legal contractual obligation on. Synonyms: bond, unite, join, permanent, obligatory, unbreakable, hitch, or chain together. I say all of that because God is attempting to show us just what a covenant bond means and how serious it is to be taken, especially by Him. When God vows a vow, says He's going to do something, and makes a promise, He follows through. He isn't wishy-washy, and He doesn't turn back easily. For instance, He vowed He would never flood the entire earth again and wipe out humanity that way for their sin and iniquity and wicked abominations. And as a show of His fidelity to His word in this manner, He gave us the rainbow as a reminder of His vow. He hasn't forgotten His word, and He aims to remind us of His promise by showing us His vow still stands. When we say we are going to do something, however, we often fall short. But here in this verse above, we are to understand that when we say we will do something, we are to be faithful and follow through, or don't make a vow promise with our integrity of character tied to it, because we are expected to be loyal and uphold our contractual agreements. This is related to our covenant marriage agreement with God, the bond we made together. God is going to uphold His end of the bond. Vow, contractual, and legal binding covenant with us. We are required to do the same. When Israel would not uphold the bond with God, when they deserted God and they walked another way with other gods and idols, we saw the destruction, recompense, and disillusion of His people. Not because God desired that. On the contrary, all His people were wandering, upholding other gods and idols as most high in their lives, and perishing altogether on the broad path leading to destruction eternal. But it was because His people were upholding the bond, a covenant agreement with Satan, and God wholly wished to save some, and all that would be saved, a remnant. Let us define a covenant according to the dictionary. Covenant, an agreement contract drawn up legally by a deed, an agreement which brings about a relationship of commitment between God and His people. Root definition: agree. When we vow or swear and make an oath to someone, it is a binding contract, a contract that is legal, attested, agreed upon, and brings about an intimate relationship with commitment between two individuals. Two people now agree upon something and walk that out. God understands we are not perfect, but one thing God does expect of us is that we do such a conscious and serious thing as to vow a vow unto someone. When we do that, especially Him, we will follow through. knowing we are tying ourselves up legally and contractually to whatever it is we have bound ourselves to. This is why he says to leave our answers to simply yes or no, because anything else is a vow and is to be very seriously adhered to and upheld, as we have now ventured away from a simple yes or no and into a vow. And a vow, oath, or swearing to a promise is to be upheld. Definition: uphold. Confirm or support, maintain a custom or practice. Synonyms: confirm, endorse, sustain, validate, justify, approve, stand by, defend, stick up for, maintain, preserve, continue, protect, keep, hold to, strengthen, and nurture. A vow or promise, oath, covenant is to be taken very seriously. It is to be upheld. So when God says something as serious as he is going to make a spiritual contract with humans, a marriage of two becoming one and binding themselves together in a legal, contractual, spiritual way, he is very much going to uphold his end of the agreement. A covenant is a bond that is to be upheld, and when we are upholding a bond agreement, as it said, two will now agree, we are nurturing, confirming, endorsing, sustaining, validating, justifying, approving, standing by, defending, sticking up for, maintaining, preserving, continuing in, protecting, keeping, hold to, and strengthening that union that is a legal and that is legal and contractually to be upheld. Can we understand why vowing something is so important now? Can we understand that when we swear to uphold something, it's serious? Can we understand that when God says he's going to do something, he will? Do we see that loyalty and faithfulness is a given from God's end of the covenant bond legal agreement? Do we see that if God takes his promises, oaths, vows, proclamations seriously, we are required to uphold the covenant and the bond as well? Do we remember when God said, and they did not uphold the covenant, what befell his people? Folks, it's because when we do not uphold the covenant with God wholly, we are actually upholding the covenant bond with Satan. We are always upholding one or the other. We are never without covenant with one kingdom or the other in this realm. We are to be choosing this day whom we will serve, for we are serving one or the other. We are in chains or bonds with one kingdom or the other at all times. And I pray we see and understand this truth. Romans 1:28 through 32. And even as they did not like to retain or possess and hold God's supreme divinity in their knowledge or recognition, full discernment, acknowledgement, God gave them over or surrendered them and yielded them up and transmitted them to and delivered them up to a reprobate, unapproved, rejected, worthless, castaway mind or intellect, thoughts, feelings, and will to do those things which are not convenient or becoming fit, being filled with all holy unrighteousness, injustice, moral wrongfulness of character, life, or actions, iniquity, fornication, harlotry and idolatry, wickedness, depravity, malice, sins of iniquity, covetousness, which is avarice, which is extreme greed or wealth for material gains, fraudulency, extortion practices of greed, maliciousness, which is badness, depravity, or malignity, trouble, evil malice, naughtiness, and wickedness, full of envy, which is ill will, jealousy, and spite, murder, slay people, debate, quarrelsome, contention, and strife, deceit, a decoy, a trick, a bait, a wile, or craftiness, malignity, bad character, mischievous, whisperers, slanderers, malicious statement makers, example, gossiper, 30, backbiters or slanderers who are talkative against another, haters of God, they're hateful toward God, impious, which is showing no respect or reverence toward God, despiteful, they are insulters, they maltreat and are injurious, they're proud, standing out, attracting attention, conspicuous, or haughty, they are boasters or braggers, inventors or contrivers of evil things, which are worthless, injurious, harmful, ill things, they are disobedient, which is unpersuadable, contumacious, stubborn, willful, disobedient to authority, to parents. And that's also God, he's our parent. Without understanding, they are unintelligent, wicked, and foolish. They are covenant breakers, not in agreement, treacherous to compacts, formal agreement or contract between two parties, entering into a formal agreement with or make a covenant, root definition. Without natural affection, which means they are hard-hearted towards kindred, they are implicable, which is truthless. They are truce breakers. They are unmerciful or merciless, who knowing or recognizing fully acquainted with the knowledge and perceiving of the judgment or decisions, statutes, and ordinances of the righteousness of God, that they who commit or habitually execute and accomplish and do such things as what he listed above, this sort of character or individuality, are worthy or deserving or suitable due reward of death, literal or figurative, not only doing the same, but they are having pleasure, thinking well of, feeling gratified with and in, well pleased in what they're doing, who do them. I have included much of these verses because I want us to understand who God says are haters of God. It is all these types of behaving people, and I believe he is quite clear as he describes those who have been given over to Satan's mindset and actions, the reprobate man's mindset. The reprobate man's mindset is set against God and is not an upholder of covenant, vow, unto, nor upholder of the bond of marriage with God, where two become one. My largest focus here, though, is the part of covenant breakers. Covenant breakers toward the union of the new covenant Yeshua made are not in agreement with God. They are treacherous to the compact, formal agreement or contract between God and man, who have entered into a formal agreement, the making of a covenant. Upholding a covenant with someone is as simple as upholding a relationship with that person in honor, thanksgiving, and gratitude, with a full heart to come through for that person and do and commit to what was agreed upon. Do we know what we agreed upon when we entered into a covenant with God Almighty? We agreed to honor and to hold, to love and to cherish one another forevermore. We entered holy matrimony. When we forget who is our dearly beloved, we have forsaken the compact, the covenant, the oath that we swore with a vow unto each other. The bond has been broken. Upholding the bond is as simple as placing God in his rightful position within and giving him honor and preference. He's number one, head honcho inside, not self, and loving him, which means diverting care, concern, focus, and attention with affections towards him and giving to God, not receiving or taking only. He's not looking for a perfect partner. He himself is perfect, and he can help us and reform us and work with us in all our ways. He is looking for loyalty in a spouse. He is looking for who honors him. He is looking within to see inside our hearts if we truly care for him as our husband, spouse, one we are united with, or if we are actually reprobate inside. And reprobate means moral castaways, rejected and unapproved in mind, intellect, thoughts, feelings, and wills, and are set against him. Do you care about his feelings, mind, heart, plans for his person? Do you love him, show him your attention, focus, affection toward him, and him alone as most highly regarded one inside you? Not what he can provide, but him. Do you honor, cherish, hold him dear to your heart, mind, emotions, and days? Do you behold his beauty and copious splendor, his glory, and long to have more of him, closer, in new ways, have him reveal himself to you? Do you long to and put effort into obeying him, which he said was how we begin to love him? What he tells you, how he leads your heart and mind, what his scripture has taught us? Because if so, you are upholding the marriage covenant with him and the bond of the two of you, where two have become now one. Because he is doing all that unto us, and daily, hourly, and minute by minute. The enemy may be the adversary of our souls, but he is the lover of our souls every minute and second of every day. We have everything when we have been offered and gifted a marriage bond to him. We have been gifted his Holy Spirit, his true personal essence, to become one with in holy matrimony of the spiritual kind. And in that we become holy matrimony covenant upholders. For we are quite literally upholding him up, exalting him within in the place he belongs as our beloved. I only pray I bring him some sort of satisfaction as a bride unto him. I pray he finds himself well pleased in some manner by being yoked up and in bonds to me. I pray he finds union with me desirable, for we have become one, and I desire to please my beloved, for my beloved pleases me. And if we are desirous to lift him within, then we are upholding him, and we are upholding the covenant, the bond of our marriage union. He is the most lovely, our beloved. and he finds us irresistible. It's why he killed himself for us before we ever needed him to, before the foundations of all that exist in the material. He was unwilling to not make a way. He had to because he loves us that much. And in a person like that, the person of love that our God is and possesses of himself, he deserves a sold out bride. He deserves everything we've got, not perfection, full on effort at the union, the bond. If we are giving him that, we are upholding our marriage vows to him. Marriage is not upheld without effort. Both here in this material world and in the spiritual heavens, we must work at a marriage if it is to succeed. And marriages are two-way streets. It's not one person doing all the heavy lifting and the other skating through. It's two people becoming each other's help meets or partners. Sure, one may be stronger in many ways, but both work at the union of intimacy, love, honoring each other, gratitude, awe of each other, beholding the beauty that is our spouse, and making sure they know they are the treasure in the heart of their other half. Song of Solomon 2:16. My beloved is mine and I am his. He feeds among the lilies. My beloved feeds among the lilies means he is adorned in the most beautiful ways, and I feed him my love and adoration, and there in the garden of intimacy. H4562, bond. Definition, a band, a binding around. Ezekiel 20:37 through 38. And I will cause you to pass under the rod or punishing correction scepter of rule, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. I will purge out from among you the rebels or the rebellious who desire to resist authority, and those who transgress or quarrel, revolt, and are apostatize against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn or temporarily abide, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. And remember, the name Israel, which is Jacob's name now, means he will rule like God and posterity of future generations. And you shall know that I am the Lord, or eternal, self-existent one. When we refuse to uphold God within in the place of honor and respect, making him our most important one inside, we have dishonored our Maker and Father, and in that we will come under the rod of correction. The rod of correction comes to those who are supposed to be in covenant bonds with God Almighty, holy and true, but are transgressing the marriage vows. He will purge out from among the body of people or group of people who claim to be his in name or proclamations only, but whom actually dishonor, throwing down and rejecting the union or the covenant. They are rebellious and desire to resist his authority in their lives. They are quarrelsome against him, which means they revolt and are apostate against him. Apostate, one who truly renounces their beliefs and principles in actions or actions and proclamations. Root definition, deserter, runaway, slave, apostate. And he says, where they are temporarily abiding or hanging out, thinking internally abiding in their actions, thoughts, intents, and deeds within, he will not bring them into the promises or where Israel goes, essentially Zion, the holy city. Symbolically and spiritually, Israel means those who will rule like God. And if we are not being ruled inside like God holy, we will not enter the land in which our spiritual faith family of God is brought into. For we upheld another within, and we truly belong to another, not God holy. Not you, Sheila. Inside joke, she'll laugh. And in recognizing and understanding through the rod of correction, they shall know that he is the Lord, the eternal, self-existent one. He upholds those who uphold covenant with him. Marriage. And marriage with and unto God holy is to be honored, respected, cherished, and exalted within. It is not in word only, but in deed and actions, and from a true heart. G4886, bond. Definition, a joint tie, that is a ligament, a uniting principle, control, banded together. Ephesians 4:3, endeavoring, use speed, earnestly make efforts and diligence to keep watch, guard, fortress, in a military defense, maintain, uphold, and preserve the unity or oneness of the Spirit, which is current breeze and winds of vital principles, mental disposition, rational soul, in the bond of peace or prosperity, at one in rest. That's huge, folks. He said, use speed, earnestly making efforts and diligence to keep, watch, guard, like a fortress in a military defense, maintaining and upholding, preserving the marriage union of oneness or the unity by the Spirit. And the Spirit is otherwise known as the current that flows, the breeze inside, the blows of the winds of God, the vital principles he shares of the mental disposition of God to us, a rational soul. And in that we keep the bond or the joint tie like a ligament, the uniting principles and control banded together in peace or at one ment, at rest, in prospering. Upholding our marriage to him with loving, honoring, attentive, adorning, and cherishing affections of love and focus, making him most high or most highly regarded within us, brings on a current, a breeze, and wind that blows from God wholly unto us, giving us a rational mind via vital principles of God that he shares through his mental disposition. And when we keep the bond or the joint ties that bind us together like a ligament, the uniting principles and control of God with us, we become two who have banded together in peace or at one man again, and are prospering because of the union of marriage being upheld, and we are at rest together. I just believe that is phenomenal and given to us by such a short verse, but one that is packed with understanding, love, and commitment from our loving and provisionary God. Let's continue with another verse from that same root of bond. Colossians 3:14. And above all these things put on charity, benevolent affections, a love feast, which is the bond of perfectness or completeness. When they listed in scripture to put on charity above all other things, they listed bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long suffering, forbearing one another, forgiving one another. But above all those attributes we need to keep and practice, he said, put on charity. Because charity is benevolent affections and a love feast. Benevolent means benevolent, well means meaning and kindly charitable, rather than gaining for self. Root definition, to wish well upon. We need to be merciful, kind, humble in mind, not overbearing and showing off, exalting self, meek, patiently long suffering with people, forbearing or patiently practicing self-discipline of character, about others and forgiving. But we will be and do all that if we practice, hold, and keep charity within us. For charity is benevolent, meaning it is kind, prefers others receive rather than for self, and wishes wellness upon others. It's partaking in an affectionate love feast. When we practice charity toward God, we are upholding the marriage covenant. Charity toward God is feasting in love together, one toward the other, wishing well for the other, because charity is benevolent, as it prefers the other receive an affectionate love bombing and feast together in oneness of that love. G1210, bonds. Definition: to bind in bonds, knit together, twist, wind together. Colossians 4:3-4. Withal praying also for us that God would open unto us a door of utterance to speak the mystery of Christ, for which I am also in bonds, that I may make it manifest or apparent and shown as I ought to speak. When we read things like make it manifest or apparent what I ought to speak and show unto others of Christ, it is only through Christ and his spirit or flow of breeze winds, the current of him within that operates the rational and the principled mind of Christ, that we can do that. And if we uphold him within in the marriage covenant, the bond of holy matrimony, honoring him, cherishing him, handing over all to him in authority of us and leading of us, preferring him over self, then do we step into that upholding of marital covenant with him, and he is able to do all that within us. Upholding the bond, or where two become one in spiritual marriage unto the most high and holy God, the maker of us, our Father, is so much more than speaking proclamations and utterances. It is walking out love, quite literally through our actions and deeds of making him number one over ourselves, life itself, what we can gain, have, swim in, buy, sell, or take pleasure in. For we have come to understand the only pleasure there is, in truth, that is worthy to be praised, honored, and worshipped, is him. He is the treasure of our hearts unto us, his faithful bride. More verses for the same usage of bonds, G 12:10. Deuteronomy 6:4-9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, or self-existent eternal one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command or enjoin you in, send and lead you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, which is your course in life and actions, and when you lie down, which is sexual connection, lover, and ravish, and when you rise up, get up, and do, perform, and rouse. And you shall bind them for a sign or a signal, flag, and beacon upon your hand, or charge and dominion, ministry, and service. And they shall be as frontlets, or forehead, knowledge, presence, regard, and countenance between your eyes. And you shall write, record, engrave, and inscribe them upon the posts or prominent places of your house, your court, palace, and temple, and on your gates, doors, and openings. I encourage you to continue reading Deuteronomy 6. I love that chapter, and there's so much more good stuff, even immediately following these verses. But there's much spiritual symbolic stuff here. First, our Lord God is one of a kind. There is only one true God, and he is Lord over all, for he is not created, and everything and everyone else is. He is the self-existent and eternal one. We ought to remember that. It makes it easier to see our place and where he ought to be the highest one within our lives, meaning the one we exalt in time, focus, love, adoration, and lead and authority over us. And we are to love him with all of our heart, soul, and might. Hearts. The innermost part of a man, the parts that make him himself in personality, desires, affections, pursuits, etc. The soul, the place of thinking, emoting, and decision making within the man, the place where we spend our time throughout our days and where we exalt ideas or persons within. Our might, all our strength to uphold God into the highest position within us with everything we've got. All our effort and hard work to throw self or Satan out of that position and to uplift God into his rightful position, using our every bit of fight and strength to throw down self and uphold God and our marriage of honor to him inside all our places and parts. The bond where two become one. And one rules over the other in the authoritative role of leader of me, which is not supposed to be me, but instead the self-existent eternal one who has higher ways and higher thinking than me, the one who is capable of leading this relationship, and I acquiesce to his rule and lead, my husband. And his words, his own words and speech, he will write in our hearts. He will enjoin himself to us inside of us, and we will teach him to our children. We will teach his words and speech when we sit in our houses, when we walk our paths and our courses in life, and when we lie down to have sexual relations or intimacy with a lover, ravishing them, and when we rise up and go about our days. And folks, this lying down to have sexual relations also symbolically means just when you lay down to love on someone or spend time with them, ravishing them and putting them, we're going to be talking about God. And our Lord's words will be bound to our hands or our dominion, ministry, and service always. And we will write or engrave and inscribe them upon the prominent places within our hearts and souls, our lives, the doorposts of our court, palace, or temples, bodies, souls, and lives, and upon our gates or doors and openings, think mouths and spiritual gates. We will honor him with words and his principles that are kept between the frontlets of our eyes or foreheads, thoughts, minds, and countenance all the time. For he is our beloved, and we are our beloveds. Deuteronomy 11:1 and 18 through 21. Therefore you shall love the Lord your God and keep his charge or watch, sentry, post, and position, duty, his statutes or appointed ordinances, his manner and customs, his judgments or verdicts, decisions, and formal decrees, and his commandments or laws and precepts, which are general rules of behavior and thought, root definition, warn, and instruct, always. Therefore shall you lay up these words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, that your days may be multiplied or given in increase, authority, excel, grow up, and the days of your children in the land which the Lord swore unto your fathers to give them will be as the days of heaven upon the earth. Note, in the same book, it's mentioned twice. For the sake of the fact that we just broke down what those verses mean in Deuteronomy 6, and it was spoken twice, I will highlight the first and the last verses here as in importance to break down. The first, we shall love the Lord our God and keep his charge, his watch, sentry, post, and position of duty he has given to us as his ambassadors, his children, his spouse and bride he is married to, giving all his kingdom to, in marriage, as well as his statutes or his appointed ordinances, his manner and customs. These now in the new covenant marriage to him would be what his person conducts himself in, like his principles, a rational mind of Christ, stuck between our eyes and our countenance, thoughts and mind, carrying his words with us always, his mannerisms and ways about him. His appointed ordinances are not the ordinances of the old covenant, but of the new covenant. Definition: ordinances, legislation enacted by an authority, a decree given by an authority figure. Root definition: put in order, arranged in rank. Folks, that means according to the summing up of all of the law now in Christ Jesus, we are to love him with everything we have and then turn and love the others the same way as we love ourselves, which is loving and honoring God properly and upholding our bond with him. It is loving ourselves properly. He is number one, most highly one regarded within us. And when regarding him over ourselves, we will uphold his ordinances, what he ordains, decrees, and how he leads us, which is through putting him in order within the arranging the ranks within us. He in his proper position. It is not living the old covenant customs. It is now we live the customs of God himself, led by God himself in our innermost parts of us, heart, soul, which is mind, emotions, and decisions making parts of us. We exalt him within. We uphold his judgments or the verdicts, decisions, and formal decrees that he decrees to our individual lives, and we uphold his commandments or his laws and precepts, which are his general rules of behavior and thought, with the root definition of precepts being to warn and instruct. And we will do this always giving him the most high position within our hearts, minds, and lives, making him God to us. Proverbs 3:1-12. My son, do not forget my law, but instead let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace they shall add to you. Let not mercy and truth forsake you or be forgotten by you in your lives and hearts. Bind them about your neck, write them upon the table of your heart. So you shall find favor and good understanding, or intelligence, successes and knowledge, policies or wisdom, in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge, or know, see, sense, recognize, acquaint yourself, be aware of him, and he shall direct or straighten, direct, even out, make pleasant, and prosper your paths, well-trodden roads, paths, race, and rank of travel. Be not wise or intelligently skillful and cunning in your own eyes, but fear or revere the Lord and depart from evil or moral wickedness. It shall be health to your navel and marrow to your bones. Honor the Lord with your substance, increase, riches, what you've been given, and with the first fruits or beginning chiefest parts, the gross or principal amount received of all your increase. So your barns or storage centers shall be filled with plenty, and your presses shall be burst out with new wine. My son, do not despise or have disdain for, refuse or reject the chastening or reproof warning instructions, restraints of bonds, corrections, and discipline of the Lord. Neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loves, he corrects, or rights, convicts, argues with to justify, disputes, pleads with, and reproves. Even as like a father corrects the son in whom he delights, or is well pleased with, approves of, enjoys, and favors. These are the last verses used in the definition of bonds regarding G12:10, but much is revealed here spiritually, symbolically too. We see here that we gain length of days, long life, and peace when we don't forget, but instead keep his laws, his commandments, which we discussed already means his personal conduct, character, principles, rational mind, and leadership in our lives as we make him most highly regarded one inside of us. Because now upholding the covenant means upholding him as number one inside, most treasured one, and leader of me and my ways. because the law is now summed up in and by Christ as he completed it all and flawlessly. So now we are to adhere to his leadership, hence our God, and he will lead us to be as he is. He said, quote, to sum up obedience to the law now, since my mission as and of Messiah has been completed, making the way back to union with God the Father now, is love God with everything you've got. And in that, you are loving yourselves properly if you are placing me in the leadership role of you, and then turn around and love the others the same. End quote. In that, we live out the fullness of the law. And do you know why? Because, folks, that is what he is continually living. And in this new covenant marriage, we are bonded to him, in him, and with him, and by him. And so what he's doing, we are going to find ourselves doing or partaking in too. The Son loves the Father with everything he's got, and then he turned and loves us the same too. He turned after marrying the Father spiritually and committing to him wholeheartedly as he lived in this earth representing the average child of God, and he gave it all back at us. And now we are to love God the Father also with everything we've got, because the example Son, who rocked everything out flawlessly, made the way of reconciliation of the bond to the Father again possible. And in that, we are to do as the Son has done, for we are in him, learning and becoming one with his ways, conduct, character, and person. As I read that, I just said basically, like, he is the one we're apprenticing under. He has a job to bring us into the oneness of what the Father is like. He is a son of God too, just like us, and we are to be joined to him so he can show us the way. He is the way to be. He is the truth of how a son of God should be, and he is that life. He will lead us in those paths of right living with God if we will get out of our own way and allow him to be the leader of us and our ways. And then thereby we have brought honor unto our marriage bond, and we are upholding the eternal self-existent one as the most highly regarded one in our marriage union. And when we do not forget to live in truth and with and by mercy, binding them about our necks means always in remembrance of, as a burden is bared around our necks, we will gain favor and good understanding, or intelligence, successes, and knowledge, policies, and wisdom in the sight of God and man. And if we will trust our Lord with all our heart and lean not unto our own understanding, but instead acknowledge him, or know, see, sense, recognize, acquaint, be aware of him, he will direct or straighten, direct, even out, make pleasant, and prosper our paths, or well-trodden roads, race, and rank of travel that we will traverse down in this earth and life. It is evil to think of oneself as wise, because in that we have forgotten that all good wisdom comes from God, and we have now successfully exalted self-accomplishments within. Meaning, like the haughty heathen kings of old who thought they conquered God's people all by themselves and their own might, we have forgotten that everything of true wisdom, skill, and accomplishment is only gained by exalting and yoking up to, in bonds with, God Almighty, holy, true, and wise. Honor God by giving him back the first fruits of our increase that he has given to us. That means the gross we take in, the first big old lump sum of what God has given us. Give back to God from that in which was given us. So, if it was wisdom he blessed us with, give it back toward God. Sow unto him good thoughts, a deep heart of understanding and affection with that wisdom, and then turn and give it to others, the body. If it was food, ask God where to give a portion of the first lump sum of garden veggies to. Which people, Lord, do I need need these fruits, as you have increased my allotment of sustenance? Whatever he has given to us in blessing, prosperity, and number, give it back toward him, and he will guide you how to do that. And in doing so, your storehouses of plenty will always be full. He will continue to give out to you, and your presses, or your crushing and efforts, will continue to provide you with the new wine, or the intimate relationship of blessing and provision from and with your partner, the bridegroom, the one we are bonded to and have become one with. And when we, as his sons, do not have disdain for, refuse or reject his corrections, reproof, warnings of instruction, his restraints of bonds that are holding us in a certain conduct of our jointly lived person with him now as one, in discipline of him, and we don't grow weary with him correcting us and disciplining us or molding and maturing us, because he corrects those he loves, And correction means he rights them from being crooked, and he convicts them and argues with them to justify them, disputing his ways, character, and conduct becoming him, and he pleads with them and reproves them. If we allow him to do all that and we don't kick against his prods or pricks with our hearts and minds to reform, like a father corrects a son or child of his that he loves, we will become a son or daughter he delights in, whom he is well pleased with, to be joined to and approves of, as well as enjoys and favors. This is the bond of the marriage of oneness that we should all aspire to, and in that, as we effort at it, we honor him, making him the most highly regarded one in our marriage union. This is giving preference and honor unto the better half in the marriage. This is upholding the covenant with God. He is constantly upholding us in his thoughts, heart, actions, plans, provision, and love. We ought to do the same and give him back the first fruits of this love union that he gave to us first. John 4:19. We love God because he first loved us. H7194, bind, definition, tie, physically gird, confine, mentally in love league, join together, knit stronger. Isaiah 49:14 through 19. But Zion said, the Lord has forsaken me and my Lord has forgotten me. Can a woman forget her suckling child that she would not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yes, they may forget, but I will not forget you. Behold, I have engraved or scribed you, enacted and cut in stone, decreed and printed you upon the palms of my hands, or the hollow of my grip or embrace, the dish or sling that holds you, the power of my branch. Your walls or adjoining protections are continually before me. Your children shall make haste. Your destroyers and those that made you waste shall go forth away from you. Lift up your eyes round about and behold, all these who gather themselves together and come to you as like children. As I live, says the Lord, you shall surely be clothed or wrapped around and arrayed with them all, prospering in children or people, not alone, as with an ornament, excellence. Bind them on you as a bride wife does. For your waste or decayed, destroyed, and your desolate or grown numb, devastated, stupefied, astonished, and destroyed places, and the land of your destruction or demolition, shall even now be too narrow, too tightly pressed, and distressed or vexed, by reason of the number of inhabitants, those dwelling and remaining about. And they who swallowed you up, or destroyed you and devoured you, shall be far away. We may have said from time to time that the Lord has forgotten me, but I will not forget you, he said. Quote, I have engraved or inscribed you, enacted, cut in stone, and decreed and printed you upon the palms of my hands, the hollow of my grip or embrace, the dish or sling that holds you, in and by the power of my branch, his person, and your walls, the adjoining protections I have hedged you in with, are continually before me. He will make our children run around earnestly, jubilantly about us, and those who have come to destroy us will be driven far from us. Quote, look at all these who come to you. As I live, says the Lord, you shall surely be clothed or wrapped around and arrayed with them all, prospering in children or people, not alone, like you are adorned in excellence. Bind them or wear the people I have given you, cherish them, love and honor them. On you, the ornaments or gifts, as a bridal wife does. End quote. If that's not the most glorious husband ever, I don't know who is. Quote, I will not forget you. I will bless you with many people and children. You will not be alone, but you will be arrayed like the bride you are to me, the partner you are to me, and I will wear or sport the blessings of a family about you. I hold you in the hollow of my grip, embracing you lovingly. You are written all over my heart, mind, and soul. You are my beloved. Your protection is always before me, most important, and your enemies I will take far from us. End quote. That is our God, and that is who we are married to in this bond, as two become one entity in marriage covenant now. That is our bridegroom. Can we see why he should be upheld as the most highly regarded one within? He is unlike any other. Our God, our Lord, is one Lord. There is no other like him. H2280. Definition, to wrap firmly or figuratively, to rule, bind up, gird about, govern, heal, or wrapping up. Isaiah 61:1. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed or rubbed me with oil and consecrated and painted me to preach good tidings, that's to be refreshed, rosy, cheerful, to announce good news to the meek, or the depressed in mind, gentle, needy, and saintly, humble, lowly, and poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted or the crushed, to proclaim liberty or freedom and spontaneity of outflow, clear and pure to the captives, those carried away, and to open the prison or jail cells, figuratively salvation from sin, to those who are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, and to comfort or pity, console, avenge, and ease all who mourn or lament, to appoint unto those who mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty or embellishments like bonnets for ashes, or a covering over ruin, the oil of joy or cheerfulness, to welcome and gladness for mourning, the garment of praise or laudation of a singing over and praises for the spirit of heaviness, feebleness and dimming, so that they might be called trees of righteousness or prosperity and morally right. They are the planting of the Lord, or the garden heart plantings, that he might be glorified and embellished, adorned by them, and boast himself in them. And they shall build or begin to obtain children, repair and set up the old wastes or desolation, decayed places of destruction. They shall raise up or lift, perform, pitch, and establish the former ancestral desolations that have grown numb, been devastated, astonished, destroyed, and laid waste to. And they shall repair, rebuild, restore, and renew the waste or utterly destroyed cities and the desolations of many generations or revolutions of time and age, posterity. His Spirit has come upon me, because he has anointed me or rubbed me with oil, consecrated and painted me to preach good tidings, or ways to be refreshed, become rosy, cheerful, and to announce good news to the meek, or those depressed in mind, who are gentle, needy, and saintly, the humble, lowly, and poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, or those who are crushed, and to proclaim liberty of freedom, and with a spontaneity of outflow, clear and pure to the captives, who are those carried away into captivity of the adversary of our souls. And he has called me to open the prison's jail cells, figuratively bring them salvation from sin to those who are bound up in it. He has called me and painted me in an anointing of his Spirit, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, as well as to comfort or pity, console, avenge, and ease all those who mourn or lament within. He has called me and anointed me to appoint unto those who mourn in the family, and to give them beauty or embellish them like bonnets upon their heads for ashes, or their woes and tribulations, a covering over them, and to bring them the oil of joy or cheerfulness, welcome, and gladness for mourning, and the garment of praise or laudation, a singing over of praises for the spirit of heaviness, which is feebleness and dimming, so that they will be called trees of righteousness or prosperity and moral uprightness, which then they are the planting of the Lord, the garden heart plantings of the love union, or the bond of the marriage upheld, so that he might be glorified or embellished and adorned by those who honor and love him, boasting himself in them. How beautiful is that? He is the most beautiful person I know, and he upholds me in the bond, the marriage. And I pray he finds himself well pleased with my love, honor, gratitude, heart, mind, will, actions, affections, time, focus, and person. He is deserving of the place of most highly regarded in this marriage union. He is our eternal, self-existent Father, bridegroom, and God, and he is worthy to be praised. The ties that bind the covenant of marriage, the bond and the bonded. And that is all we wrote today on this, but I have to tell you, I was moved greatly in love and adoration of him to go over all of this. He began this with me yesterday, but the majority of it we finished today. And in that, I am reminded about how this love of his is not a performance-based love, but it is an effort-based one. It just means that he's asking us to partner with him in life. I think pretty much everyone can understand that when we said yes to him in salvation, we accepted the new covenant or the new contractual legal agreement to be bonded to him in that, all marriages have to be worked at, this kind in this earthly material realm and spiritual marriages. Because the ones in this realm only succeed if you spiritually married yourself to that person as well. Meaning your inner man is upholding that other inner man. Not just like what I want you to do and how I want you to do it, and real love and honoring. And in that, this love, this covenant of marriage, this binding marriage is a bond between two people. It is the most beautiful thing there is. And he is constantly upholding our marriage. He is, meaning you're number one to him. You are on his heart and mind all day. Your concerns are his concerns. Your issues are the things he wants to help you with. Your enemies and adversaries are his enemies and adversaries. Your dreams, he wants to fulfill. Likewise, we are to do the same thing back towards him in honoring him. His dreams ought to be very important to us. His emotions ought to be very important to us. His thoughts ought to be very, very important to us. His plans, his actions, his future, his outlook, his character, his person ought to be really, really, really important to us. In fact, more important to us than we are of ourselves. What he desires, what makes him happy or well pleased ought to be something that we're focused on, because we want to bring him pleasure. That is what a good spouse does unto the other. They want to bring the other person love, honor, gentleness, kindness, preference, happiness, joy, fulfillment. They want to love them. And with that, love is a verb. Love is an action. Love is performed. It isn't just spoken. It's not just a concept. I am loved of God. How? Because God proves it over and over again throughout Scripture, in everything that he does in his actions towards us, and in everything he is, of how he controls his person in a very, very amazingly divine conduct of character. When he says, I'm going to uphold this, he holds himself to that. When he vows a vow, he is the utmost seriousness to that. It's why the old covenant couldn't be done away with. It had to be finished, because he said, I made this covenant. So the son had to come and finish that covenant, because it was not going to be easily done away with, right? It had to be fulfilled, not scrapped, fulfilled. So in the fulfillment of it, now it is defunct. It is no longer the covenant of the old. We have a new covenant, because when he fulfilled it, it was obsolete now. It doesn't need to be applied. We don't have to be sacrificing animals, trying to find the perfect sacrifice anymore, because the perfect sacrifice was given to us and accomplished. It's done, folks. But the marriage ain't done. The marriage is to be continually worked on in a daily basis. Continue being at this marriage. Continue being in bond to the Lord, bonded to him in a very legal and contractual manner, meaning that's great to hear. You want to know why? Because when it comes down to the judgment period, he's going to go, no, it's written right here in my book. We are married. Essentially, that is the names of the Lamb's book of life. These are the ones that are married to me. It's very important that we uphold this marriage and vows to him. And he's been continually talking about marriage, because there's a lot of defunct marriages in this world, because we do not understand spiritual marriage has to take place before carnal marriage can be upheld even properly as a functioning partnership in this life. So we have got to understand spiritual marriage, which, like this picture shows you, is embracing one another internally. And it is demoting self as most important, to exalt or put up the other person inside the heart, inside the mind, inside the actions, inside the affections, inside the deeds. When we do that with God, he will uphold us exactly the same way, because we have come into upholding the marriage. which means we're now no longer adulterous and idolatrous, which means I made so-and-so down here more important, and this job or this animal or my activities or my vacations, or we have become no longer adulterous. He literally has become number one in our lives, and we're putting effort into that. So now we're not idolatrous anymore. And adulterous means the same thing, basically, that I exalted all those other people, things, pursuits, and desires above you. I went after so much in life, but it wasn't you. It wasn't you internally, and it wasn't to live with you your way and to allow you to have your way with me. You know, that's what it really means with when you are intimate physically with a marriage partner. They are having their way with you, and it ought to be loving and honoring and intimate and gentle and kind. You understand what I'm saying? So when we're in a spiritual marriage to God, we ought to be letting him have his way with us, which is he only loves those that he corrects those he loves, right? So he's going to need to reform us. That's the reformation process. If we're going to allow him to have his way with us, then we are giving honor to our spouse, allowing him to reform all of our insides. That's the bond. He's like, you're a little pokey over here. You're kind of misshapen and it's not fitting with me totally right. We need to work on this, this, and this. Let me help you reform you. I can do this with you because we can do all things through Christ. I'm with you. In that, we are saying, yes, we are upholding the covenant and the bond. You know, this yoking, it's meant to actually benefit us, not restrict us. Is it restrictive compared to what the world lives like? Yeah, because it's opposite. That's why it's restrictive. This world is completely operates, its cultures and its ways are completely contrary to the kingdom if you're living carnally minded. So the yoke is going to seem restrictive if you are actually wanting to be a carnal person. So then you've got that's the Pharisee, that's the hypocrite who's like, no, I'm with God and I know all this stuff, but you live that way, God is saying, and you're pokey. We're not fitting together. These puzzle pieces are not meshing together. This bond is jank. So we have got to uphold that bond, which just means effort. Again, it is not performance based for you to be perfect, held to some Old Testament covenant. It's not. The new covenant is him. We have to be beholden to him, like we're beholden to a spouse. And ideally, that's supposed to be within first. Beholden on the outside, holding hands, doing life together, going and enjoying in activities, even coming together and making love in some kind of sexual relations. That's all carnal, meaning it's of the body. We're supposed to be upholding that person inside first, you know, and God is supposed to be number one in us first. Then as we're upholding that spiritual marriage, we're able to turn and do it to our spouse down here who's number two. If somebody is thinking that they're supposed to be number one above God down here in a marriage, they're carnally minded. They are worldly minded. That's how the world works. You know, the world works like, oh no, honey, I'm your number one. And the truth is that God has to be our number one because he told me before, two broken people don't make a whole when they come together and get married. You have to be working at your relationship with God individually, the wife and the husband, and then they come together and they make a proper full functioning unit because you've got one over here upholding God as most high within and being reformed by his hand and loving him and he loving them. And then you got the other one doing the same. And when they come together and they're both uplifting God into that number one thing, you've got a triangle. You've got three people. You've got a three-way conversing going on, a three-way bond going on where God is at the top of this triangle and the two of you are at the base, the foundation working together, but you have the same head over you or capstone. So in that it works out. But we have got to remember the bond between the two bonded people who have become one, whether that's in carnal world land unto like spouses down here, or if it's with God, because it has to be with God proper first, or the carnal marriages don't work. And God said, listen, if one of you is going to get right with me, I can bless that union and sanctify what's going on. I will do everything I can to bring that other person into the truth and into the knowledge of me, whether it's dreams, encounters with other people, just conviction of the heart, whether it's signs and movies and songs and whatever it is. I will pull out all the stops if you will do this with me, because he needs someone to covenant with him. He needs someone to agree with him. That is what it meant. Again, covenant, come into an agreement. So if we can come into an agreement with him about how to do life with him, we become an example. That is what witnessing Christ in the earth is. We become an example of Christ because Christ gets to witness himself right out of us because the marriage is upheld. That is the premise of what I'm bringing you today. And it's been over an hour, Father. Is there anything else you wanted to know? Folks, I'm praying that we understand this because it's beautiful. This whole thing, if you replay it, this whole thing is extremely beautiful on how he is unwilling to not uphold his covenant. He will stick to that covenant and he will work his blood, sweat, and tears. He literally did. Folks, he literally did. For your marriage to him, he upheld and worked his blood, sweat, and tears. His blood was shed for you on the cross to make the way. He sweated it out, taking upon every man's sentence here and going through everything common to man, everything common to every kind of man upon him while he was here, and shed many a tears over what he went through, for sure, but over how many he was going to be reconciled to. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, but he also cries many tears for those who will not join to him. So by his blood, sweat, and tears, he made the way for us to be married to him. And I just pray that we can understand the beauty in that. If you have never had that in this life, or you don't now, or even if you have an amazing marriage, that is the most amazing marriage I've ever heard of. That is the most amazing person I've ever heard of, who gave everything of himself before it was ever even needed to be given. He said, I'm going to kill myself for them. I'm going to do that for them because I want them and I love them that much, just to give them the opportunity to either accept or reject me. Folks, do we understand? He did all that just to give us an opportunity to reject him even. But it ain't never going to be said that he didn't give us an opportunity and that we didn't have 80 years to decide whether we were going to choose any of those years to honor him and love on him back. Because folks, the truth is, that's the simplicity of it. He's like, I wanted some people that wanted me. And if they want me, I want them. Does that sound like you are required to do anything specific for that? Like performance based, like you're getting graded? No. But if you're not working at it at all, then is there a marriage you're upholding at all? So you just have to put efforts in with him. He is willing to pull the heavy load. He is willing, he said, to work us over and reform us. We're his workmanship, which means we are his project. We just have to say, yes, I would like to be your project and I would like to be bonded to you and I'd like you to reform my life. And I'm going to do my best to just be like, hey, he loves me and he's going to continue this work inside of me and I'm going to stay focused on him and I'm going to give him love and adoration and I'm going to spend time with him in his word because that is him and he's swimming all over those pages. And if I want to know anything about him, I better start there. I'm going to do that for you, God. And then I'm going to try to turn around and love everybody else the way that you're loving me, which is this incredible love. This is incredible acceptance, albeit you do require me to do some work and to change my ways because in every way that I come into alignment with you, it makes my life that much more better and you bring prosperity in. That's what you said, God. If we teach these things to our children and yada, 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 then we will be doing well with God because that's what prosperity means. So I pray that we all understand that he's just asking us to uphold the marriage. Please uphold the bond. That's all I keep saying, hearing him say. Please uphold the bond. It just means put some effort in at your relationship because, folks, we all know or have seen a movie where two people have drifted apart. They're doing their own thing. They don't even sleep in the same room anymore. They are going about their days barely speaking to each other. There is nothing upheld. There is complete estrangement going on. And yet, on paper, they're married. That isn't a partnership. It's two people who are living conveniently underneath the same dwelling, but have completely separate lives. We have got to uphold the covenant, which means spend time with him, honor him, love him, give him the focus, let him be the leader of you, the God inside of you who is held up most high inside and not us. And I love you all, and I pray the anointing goes with to explain all of this and to help you in every way. But folks, really, it's just about putting the effort in. It's just about spending time with him and loving on him and trying to do things the way that he's leading us to, trying to do things according to how he describes himself in scripture. He's like, get to know me, get to know my identity, get to know my character and the way that I function, get to know my gifts and fruits of the spirit, because these are all the things that I want you to operate in. But folks, if we don't come into agreement with him, we can't operate in those things because we'll have exalted self within, another within, and we'll operate in those things instead. So, Father, in your holy Son's precious, precious, precious name, the gate and the doorway, the bridegroom, my husband, the most precious person, the most amazing person I have ever met, to walk out and show us how to do this, to walk out and go through what he went through just to make the way, and then show us what that way is, and then help us with that way so that we can do all of that with you. Because all three of you are together with us in that. It takes the Holy Spirit to do that. It took the Son to come and do what he did, and then you're walking it out with us, this marriage. So I just want to thank you for that and bring you the honor today in Yeshua's holy name.